And happening now, a new poll shows President Obama with the lowest approval rating of his presidency. Hi, everybody. Hope you're off to a great day so far. I'm Jenna Lee.
Good morning. I'm John Scott. Last year at this time, the president's job approval rating stood at 54%. Now it has dropped 11 points to 43%. The disapproval number rising to 55%. Also, when it comes to who do you trust more, while Congress remains low, it's starting to close a gap with the president that began last year. You can see the numbers there. Joining us now to analyze, Ellison Barber, a writer for the Washington Free Beacon. Are you surprised at some of these approval ratings that the president is seeing?
I'm not surprised in that I think that we've seen problem after problem with the Affordable Care Act. So it's sort of to be expected. But if you look at this in the context of his disapproval rating, you have 55% disapproving of the job he's doing. If you go back and look at the last two presidents in December of their fifth year, his job as doing a presidency under Bush II was 53% disapproved of the job he was doing. Under Clinton, it was 36% disapproved of the job he was doing. So at that exact same time frame, he's doing much worse in the public's eyes than the last two presidents were, and I do think that's significant.
And yet he railed, when he came in about the Republican administration ahead of him and so forth. The Iraq War was unpopular, the Afghan War was unpopular, and yet somehow President Obama has found a way to get lower numbers than Bush 43 or President Clinton.
And Bush 43, that year, 2005, would have been his fifth year, and that was obviously when there was a lot of controversy with the memos about if there were weapons of mass destruction, and he's still 2% more unapproved by the public than Bush was. So it is significant. He really had a lot of things going in his favor to have a higher approval rating, but I think it's a testament to kind of the strain that the Affordable Care Act has been on him, because you saw with the recent poll with millennials, you have 56% disapproving of the Affordable Care Act, 57% disapprove of it when it's called Obamacare. So he has a lot of problems, and it really is tied to the signature legislation that has his name on it.
Yeah, it does seem to be about Obamacare, because when asked if you support or oppose the federal law making changes to the health care system, these are the numbers. 46% support, 49% oppose. And then when asked, do you think the federal government website for health insurance is working as it should or not, 23% say it's working, 64% say it's not working. And finally, this is a big one, Ellison. Do you think these problems are serious enough that the government should delay the requirement that all individuals have health insurance, or should this requirement proceed on schedule? 60% say delay the individual mandate, the health insurance mandate.
That's significant, because up until now you've had the administration being adamant that they won't be delaying it. And what will be interesting to see is if in the gap between the 23rd of December now and the 1st of January, how many of those people that lost their insurance were able to actually successfully re-enroll in the exchanges to get their coverage back. Because if they aren't, then I think you're going to see a stronger push for the delay.
Yeah, and if these people who had their insurance covered under the requirements, canceled under the requirements of Obamacare, if they had their insurance canceled and they can't sign up, on the website or whatever, they somehow wind up without health insurance. Where do they go? I mean, do they sue the federal government? What do they do?
Right. I mean, their really only tangible option seems to hope that there's going to be a delay. And that's where I think people are counting on some of their legislators. And I think Republicans would say that this is where our constituents are calling on us to try and delay aspects of this law and make changes for them, because they see that it's hurting their constituents.
So the president, the White House has been scrambling and saying, basically begging these healthcare companies, health insurance companies, to go ahead and cover these people, even if they didn't get signed up. They're saying, pay the money now and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, it's a very messy situation, and I think that this again goes back to why those approval ratings are so low. Is that no matter how they try to spin it, people recognize that it's more than just one problem, that it's a consistent problem throughout, and particularly throughout the last year, and that's why you see I think it's an 11% drop from what he was at last time to now with the public's approval. And this actually puts the Republicans in a good position legislatively, particularly if that spending deal passes, which it looks like it will. Their next focus is going to be on the budget deal, and they're in a much better position to work on those negotiations to get some of those spending cuts and leverage their position in the fact that the president does have a low approval rating in early 2014.
So let's look at the coming elections. Typically, the party that holds the White House loses seats in Congress during a midterm election. When the president's approval rating is below 50%, the number gets even bigger, the number of seats lost. So you've got a president now with a 43% approval rating Can he bring that back up in time for the 2014 elections, or is this cake already baked?
It's possible. But I would suggest to you that the problems that you have with the Affordable Care Act now and the problems that you see coming, particularly with the issue of people not being able to keep their doctors, people aren't really going to realize that until that coverage starts and until they're really enrolling towards the end of the exchange enrollment period, which is going to be in March. So I think once you see more people realizing, oh, we can't keep our doctors, and if that Harvard poll is any indication, you're not going to have a lot of millennials signing up towards the end of exchanges, and then that's going to put another problem for the Affordable Care Act where they don't have the healthy young invincibles paying for the older sick people. So you could see an issue of even more skyrocketing premiums. So the odds are kind of not in there.
You think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg in terms of the problems, and that's really going to be impacting people's opinions of the president and his signature act really throughout the coming year.
Absolutely. I really think the heart of why his approval ratings have had this drop is because of the Affordable Care Act, and the continuing problems are going to be what's going to plague them throughout 2014.
You can read Ellison Barber online at the Washington Free Beacon. Ellison, thanks for coming in.
You bet.